Okay. And the way that this typically gets started is we just start. And I think where a good place to start with you would be to have you explain, 'cause I still don't fully understand, like the kind of cancer that you have and what you're
Right.
going through.
Okay.
Let's start. Let's start and say, look, you know, you have this type or form of cancer, and I don't know when you originally got diagnosed, but here you are today, and then you can talk that, and then we'll go and rewind to, okay, you grew up here in Bettendorf, and then
Right.
go through your family and all that kind of good stuff, and
Sure.
you're running and all that.
Right.
So I think it'd be a good place to start to talk about the current situation you're in.
Sure. Sure. Absolutely. Um, yeah, so in 2020, I was diagnosed with they use scare words, scare tactic words, um, rare aggressive cancer. It's a lymphoma. It's a form of lymphoma. They refer to it as blastoid mantle cell lymphoma. Um, that means nothing to me.
Right.
To be honest with you, I mean, cancer to me is cancer.
Yeah.
Excuse me. But what it did signal to me was, 7 months prior to that, I was in Leadville.
Yeah.
So I went from the best shape of my life at 60 years of age to the worst shape of my life in 7, 8 months. Um, it's something that there's no cure for. They just try to manage it, knock it down. Today, I'm in what they refer to as complete remission for the fourth time.
Yeah.
And each time, it seems like it gets a little harder for me mentally,
Yeah.
having to deal with it. But um, it is what it is. I guess everybody uses that phrase. It is what it is. Uh, the procedure that I just went through at the University of Iowa, the Holden Cancer Clinic up there, is called CAR T cell therapy. And what that entails is that's kind of like a little bit of Dr. Frankenstein type stuff. And I held off on that for as long as I possibly could because I did a lot of organics. Early on, I did a lot of organics. I was able to get, well, the first time around, I was able to get 2 years out of my organic setup before it came back. And then when it came back, um, I tried a little bit of chemotherapy, and it
Hmm.
didn't work out very well. I was on
No.
it 10 days. I had lost 26 pounds. I was curled up in my office on the ground on an air mattress, and that was at the time when my wife was taking care of her mom. She was sick, and I just said, I'm stopping this. And I went back to my organics, and I actually got 3 years out of that. So, but then it came back again. So it's been back. This is the fourth time that it's come back on me. Um, and I kind of pushed this T cell therapy down the road as far as I want as I could because it's like it's the last thing I can do at this point. Um, it was successful, which is great. I'm very happy about that. And hopefully I'll get 5 to 7 years of quality of life out of it. But anything can happen.
Yeah.
Um,
Now, what kind of, like, rewinding a little, you said you were in the best shape of your life, but what were the symptoms? Like, what happened when you got back and, like, that made you decide to say, hey, something's not right?
yeah. So actually, my Wendy, my wife, my fiance, we're not legally married, but I call her my wife. She says
Yeah.
fiance, whatever. It
Yeah.
is what it is. She actually brought up to me. She goes, your head smells really weird.
Huh.
My sweat.
Yeah, yeah.
She goes,
Huh.
you're sweating and it smells really weird. Plus, I was tired all the time. And I was running a landscaping business.
Hmm.
I mean, I was physically active doing the work, that now it's a young man's game. And here I am, 60 years old out there lifting 90-pound blocks and
Hmm.
doing all this stuff. But I was tired. I was exhausted. Um, it got to the point, it's hard to remember exactly what was going on. Um, my spleen swelled up really bad, and Pat was there. We were at his Fourth of July party.
So is this 2018?
This is 2020.
2020. Okay.
This is
Oh
2020
wait,
because I
was
went.
that the one with the fireworks with Mike Wolf and those guys, and you guys were like,
Yeah,
uh
yeah. That's yeah.
we can talk. I'd like to talk about that. But oh man.
Yeah, yeah. But and of course my sister Jane was there and everything. She was
Hmm.
freaked out because she saw how yellow I
Oh,
was.
like a jaundice or
Yeah, yeah,
something.
yeah.
Yeah.
It was really bad. But my spleen had swollen up 3 times its original size.
Ugh.
Um, couldn't hardly breathe. It was pushing on my lungs, things of that nature. Pat got me started on the fulvic.
Yeah.
That was my first introduction into the fulvic minerals. And believe it or not, 8 days later, the swelling had gone away. Um, just doing this was before. This was actually before I was even diagnosed. And then I went and I
Hmm.
saw Sean Schneider
Yep.
at ACI Medicine, and Sean, great guy, great guy. He ran a huge battery of tests and blood work and things of that nature. And, then it was still 2.5 weeks before we knew, before the blood work came back. And he said, hey, he said, I got, I have good news. I don't know if it's lymphoma or if it's leukemia, but you have cancer.
Ugh.
But he did get me into Iowa City right away, which was a good thing. And so then we went up there and we worked out a plan of action.
Yeah. I don't know if you've ever heard the story that I forget what year it was. Probably it was a long time ago, but do you know the runner Alberto Salazar?
Huh?
He was a marathon runner. But
Okay.
anyway,
Yep. Yep.
he was like the coach of the Nike Oregon Project team when when they first started, let's say. But anyway, here's a guy. He's won Boston marathons. He's a super athlete guy, but he was probably in his 50s, maybe early 50s, and they were out there training, and he dropped of a heart attack. And so, he was like, man, I thought I was healthy, and here I am, I'm running, all the time. And what the doctor told him was, and this is why I'm bringing it up because you said this was, he said, look, if you weren't in that good a shape, you would have died and it would have happened earlier. It's just something genetic.
Right. Right.
So, like
Right.
when you said you were in the best shape of your life, and here you are now, it's 6 years or, five something plus years
Yep.
later. Like, I feel like if you weren't in good shape, it could have possibly been worse. I don't know.
No, you're absolutely right. As a matter of fact, uh, the first oncologist that I saw, Dr. Strauss, had actually said that.
Did he?
He
Yeah.
said you have no underlying conditions. You're not diabetic. You're not, you don't have any heart issues.
Hmm.
He goes, for all practical purposes, other than the fact that you have an incurable cancer,
Yeah.
you're in
Yeah.
you're in perfect shape,
Right.
right? And I'm like, okay, cool. Yeah. So, and still, the weird thing about it is that the second and the third time that he came back, I'm a little apprehensive about going out and training
Well, yeah.
because it seems like every time I get to a point where, all right, okay, you're doing pretty good. Look, I'm not a fast runner. I don't think I'll ever be a fast runner. I'm a 12-minute mile kind of guy.
Yeah.
And that's fine with me. I'm 65 years old, for crying out loud.
Yeah.
I'm not out to win anything. I'm just out to compete and
Yeah.
have a good time.
Yeah.
If I'm the last guy that comes across, well, it's Skoko. I was the
Yeah.
last guy to come across the finish line there under time, but I finished it.
Yeah.
And that's all I want. That's
Right.
all I care about.
Yeah. I agree. It's funny, like you say that because, like, I remember a long time ago when I lived in Wayland. It's funny because that guy Alberto Salazar lived in Wayland. But anyway, I remember there was this local 5K and a 10K. Every year I would do it, but there was like this older guy that had a son, and they would run together. and they would win the 5K or the 10K every year. So I would try to
Okay.
figure out which one they were going to run, and I would run the other one. But getting to the point of like, it
Right.
doesn't matter if you're running 12-minute miles or 7-minute miles. Um, I ran the 5K one year and I won, but it was like a 20-minute time, which is not fast for a 5K.
Right.
And,
Right.
I was like, is that good that you won, or should I have run faster? Right. And it's like, well, I don't know. I felt like you win a race, you win a race, right? It doesn't matter what the time was.
Right.
And so, like, there's another friend of mine, he just ran the Austin half marathon. His name's Ken Rideout, and Ken won. He's 52 years old. He won the half marathon, and he
Wow.
ran it in like, I don't even know, some say 1 hour and 10 minutes. And he was pissed because he wasn't trained enough. And I said to him, I posted something like, if you were in shape, you would have run it faster, but you still won. Like, what's the difference?
The result was the
Because the
same.
result's the same. So, like, for you, I get it. Like, there's so many runners out there that feel like speed is important. And once I went to trail running, I was like, this is the best thing in the world because I could care less
Right. Right.
what my
Exactly.
pace is.
Yeah.
And like you said, you finish, right? That's it.
And you say that, and I tried figuring it out, and I'm like, even in these longer runs,
Yeah.
let's say the 50s and the 100 milers, I mean, it breaks every, unless you are a super elite, trail runner, ultra marathoner, it's going to wear you down anyway, right? To where you're down and you're doing, 13-minute miles. And,
Hmm.
eventually, I get it. I get it. And I was like, knowing what I know now, I should have never went to Leadville either. But I
Well,
had a blast. We had a
yeah.
really good time, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that if you don't challenge yourself and put yourself out there, right,
Right, right. I
and see
mean,
what you're made of.
um, yeah, I DNF both times on the mountain. you know, and you got that you got that walk of shame coming back into Twin Lakes. That was because nobody that's cheering you on, they think you're still running
Yeah.
in the
Yeah. Right.
race,
Right. Right.
and and the more they're yelling and
Yeah.
screaming at you, the madder I'm getting.
Yeah.
But and then you remember when we did the Skoko, and you kind of got off.
Oh, I got lost for 6 miles.
You got lost for like 6 miles, and then
Yeah.
I and
I
and,
caught
and,
up with you.
and caught up with me, and I didn't have my I didn't know who it was that was yelling at me,
Yeah.
and then I realized, and I'm like, it was you, and I'm like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
this doesn't compute
Yeah.
unless you're on your last lap, your last loop.
Yeah.
But that was that year.
It was the heat.
Well, not only that, but the day before was when I had those needle
Oh yeah, that's
biopsies
right.
done
And your
in my
neck.
neck.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
had bad,
Yeah, you shouldn't even have been running.
but I'd already paid the money.
Sure, sure.
And I'm like, well, let's just try it anyway.
Oh man, that I just remember being so pissed that like I got back to the start after two loops, which I should have only had one left, which I think it's what is it, 10 or 9 miles?
10.
10 left?
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, yeah,
So
yep, 10
like
miles.
it should have been like 21 miles and I was at, like 26 and a half or something like that. And Josh was like, "Well, you can just go run another loop." And I'm like, "Fuck that." First of all,
Yeah.
I mean, it was so hot. I like other people dropped after two loops because it was so hot.
And I didn't really notice. I don't recall noticing how hot it
Oh my
was.
God.
That wasn't what was bothering me was
Your neck. I
I
remember,
couldn't
yeah.
hold my head up.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know.
And then when I realized because when we just bowed out and said, that's it, we're done. Um, I got home and I remember looking at the clock um, at the race, and I'm like, then I got really mad because all I had to do was maintain an 18 and a half minute mile, and I could have
To make it
finished
for the
it.
cutoff. Yeah.
I could have, so I could have just ate and drank and said hi
Yeah.
to everybody and walked around.
Yeah.
But I figured, well, I'll enter it one more time, and we'll try to get that. And of course, I got it that time, but it was a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good race. I like that one. I mean, it's just been, it hasn't really worked out for me a couple times there, but I switched to the 10 and that's perfect for me.
Is it? Yeah.
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 I mean, I did, I think I ran faster last year than this year, but it's all dependent on the weather for me. When it's hot, I that's it. I'm done. There's no chance of going fast.
Working outside for me, I kind of
Hmm.
acclimate to that heat and that humidity.
Yeah.
Even at, I'm sick. I'll be 66 now in April. Um, and I went back to work, but not the real physical labor stuff anymore. I do some lawn maintenance and things of that nature. So the heat really doesn't bother me that much.
You're lucky.
Um, yeah, I mean, I am. I enjoy being outside, and that's part of it. I mean,
Yeah.
I love being outside.
Yeah.
So
No, I think it's like for me, the cold, I'm not talking like the -20 cold because I hate that, but I still do it. It's just today was like perfect. It was ideal. It was like 37, but it felt like comfortable where I
right.
wasn't completely sweating to death or like I didn't have any hydration, but I don't know. I just don't, I can't stand the heat. I can't get into it at all.
For me, the cold. I guess I don't know how to dress.
Oh yeah, it's hard to figure out. You got to dress
It is. It's either you're sweating bullets
right.
underneath everything. I
Yep.
guess it doesn't really matter one way or the other. But then you get too much clothing on, and then you're restricted.
Uh-huh. Oh yeah.
So
Yeah, this was a rough winter. It was rough. And the wind here around here is brutal.
yeah.
That's what really kills you is the wind. I try to figure out which way it's blowing before I even leave. But so we can talk about Leadville if you want and what kind of where I remember when we were training and it was I think it was like the first time I even knew who you were or met you was when we did that track work or that run around the track at Bettendorf High School. And then you came, I think I can't remember if you came that day or the next day in the morning, but you started running some laps and you said you were going to run Leadville at some point. That was in 2015 into 2016.
2017, because didn't Pat go out in 2016
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is you came there when we did the 24-hour run. You did it
at the track?
at the track.
I was, yeah. So I was
You weren't
there, but
training.
I wasn't training
No,
yet.
no, that's when you said you were going to decide to become a runner, I think.
Right. And that's yeah. At the age of what, 60?
Yeah.
I think I'll be a runner,
Right.
right?
Why not? Hey,
Is it
Pat's
like
going to
better
try to
late
do
than
it.
never on
Yeah.
something like that, right?
Yeah.
But funny thing about running and track and all of that was my so it was sixth grade middle school here in Bettendorf.
Hmm.
I went out for track. Track coach was his name was Beckman, Mr. Beckman. Great guy, real good guy. So everybody goes out to, we go out to the track, and he says, "All right, everybody start running." I get about 2/3 of the way around the track on my first lap, and I stop, and I'm walking, and he yells at me. He goes, "Miletich, what are you doing?"
Yeah.
And I just looked at him and I said, "Mr. Beckman, I see absolutely no reason why I should continue to go around this track, like a rat on a wheel. I'm
Yeah.
done. I quit.
Yeah.
I just walked off. I never got into it. I never got into the
Yeah.
sprinting, and all that stuff. Now the trail running is different.
Hmm.
That's a whole different ball game. I actually enjoy that part.
Yeah, I think that once someone goes from road to trail, it's hard to go back. And I don't think I'll ever do a road marathon ever again. I don't. I just like being out on the trail because you're in the woods and you kind of don't know, you know how far you're going because if you have a plan. But I mean, as you're running, you're like, this is pretty cool. Like you're up and down. The pace varies way more than it would on the pavement. And like you're outside and in the woods. I think it's cool.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a lot of variations.
Yeah.
Your mind is kind of like, you got to watch where you're stepping
Oh yeah.
all the time.
Focus, without a
Yeah, there's
doubt.
a lot of, there's a lot of trip hazards. I mean,
Yeah.
when you and I and Pat
Oh yeah.
will go down to Sunderbrook,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, there are a lot of rocks and roots and
Yeah.
things, pick them feet up, right?
Oh yeah.
That was always a good time. We had a good time training though.
Yeah.
Um,
I remember that one time we ran and it was hot again. It was like really, really hot. And I think it was when you were training. I wasn't training for Leadville, but you were. And Pat had those stupid orange shorts on. And
Yeah.
I remember getting done and it was like he had a shirt off and he had his shorts on and it was like, oh my God. But I
Yeah.
just remember wringing out like drenched
Yeah.
with sweat. It
Yeah.
was so hot.
When you get down in the lower the lower levels up there at Sunderbrook, and there's literally no breeze,
Yeah.
and you can just kind of see the heats just hovering. Yeah, it was a good time. I enjoyed the training. Going back a little bit, excuse me. 2017, right? DNF. All right, we'll train. I could care less. I felt worse. I felt worse for the guys that came out there that were going to be pacers.
Yeah.
Because it just
Yeah.
seemed like a wasted trip for them guys,
Yeah.
right? And then 2019, Pat came out. That was so fun. Pat came out. Austin came out. David Clark was there. Clark was going to actually pace me back over. Um,
Yeah.
and I take off out of Twin Lakes. Pat and David Clark were over there doing photo shoots,
Yeah.
right? Not concentrating on getting me what I need.
Right.
And so now I'm already, I'm going up Hope Pass, and I hear somebody yelling my name, Johnny Miletich. Well, it was Austin.
You forgot something, I think.
I forgot everything.
Yeah.
I literally everything. I had no shell, no poles, no food, and no fluids. And he ran from Twin Lakes and caught up to me and got that stuff to me. Um, and that just shows you the level of commitment that Austin had for
Oh
that.
yeah.
I was so happy he got his buckle when he did that. When he did it.
Yeah, that was an experience like I'll never forget. And you mentioned the crew and being part of a crew or a pacer to me was more meaningful than it was when I did it. Like I don't like to have help, you know what I mean? Like I'm just kind of like I would rather try to do something on my own, but I'll tell you right now, the help that you need is without it, no one's finishing
Right.
without it. I
Right.
mean, very rare or you're that elite of elite, right? And even those elite of elite people like that David Roach, I don't know if you followed him or saw him. He broke the record twice, 2 years in a row.
Okay.
And this guy runs up the mountain
Yeah, that's crazy. That
up
is
and I
crazy.
saw his training is insane. He gets on the treadmill and he runs, like 7-minute miles like at 15 degree and for hours.
That's
Yeah.
crazy.
But the level of support for them, it's the same thing, right? If you don't have that support. And I think for me, like I said, it was better. I felt way better about the experience helping Austin than I did when I did it for myself.
So you felt more. I get what you're saying.
Like helping someone for me was better than doing it
More
myself.
fulfilling.
Yes, more fulfilling for
than,
sure.
than, than,
And
than actually running the race and coming across
yeah,
and all that. Well, that's cool.
and then for
That's
him,
cool.
it was literally like every single aid station was by a hair.
That close.
Yeah, we're talking. I think the last handoff, or actually not the last one, but maybe the second to last. Like no, it was the last. So Kurt took him up over power line, and he handed him off to Chris Brooks, and I think they had like 90 seconds or like a minute and a half.
And that was at May Queen.
It was for the last 13. Yeah.
Yes, sir. And that's, believe it or not, that's kind of uphill.
Oh, it is. Oh, it's always. It's all.
That 13 miles inbound.
Yeah, it's brutal.
Is uphill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember we were all at the like parking lot there at the end of what's that street? The main street it starts on. No, I forget the name of it. But anyway,
Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
we're at the high school. We're at that parking lot waiting, and that's when you come out of the trailhead. And I just remember saying to like Andy Besser and to Kurt, if we don't see Austin at this time, at like like I think it was like 9:30 or 10 o'clock because the cutoff's 10.
Right.
If we don't see him at 9:30, and then we were all there.
Yeah, yeah.
And then all of a sudden at 9:30 he popped out, and we're like, all right, let's go.
And he actually made up some time.
Well, I don't know about that, but
a little bit, I think.
yeah, maybe. He might have because he did have. I think he ended up with like 16 minutes.
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like that's wow.
So I mean, you've done 80, you've gone through the night, you've done 87 miles,
Yeah.
right? You've gone through the night, and to be able to make up, put some money in the bank, so to speak,
Yeah.
at the 87-mile mark
Yeah.
is just, it's unreal.
I
It's
know.
crazy unreal.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was so happy he got that buckle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think he was happy too.
The night before it,
Yeah.
when he said he couldn't go to the bathroom, he had Pat make him a cup of coffee.
That was in the morning.
Yeah, that was a bad deal there. I thought, oh, he said he's already out of fluids and coming into what was that? Coming into what was the aid station out in the field there?
Yeah, I forget what they call it.
He
It's
found a
called.
bottle of water laying on the side of
Oh
the
yeah.
road, and he's like, "Oh, the good Lord's looking out for me." He picked it up, and it was a full bottle. He said it was a full bottle of fluids.
Yeah. I know a lot of like Kurt. He could probably tell you. I know John Byrne can tell you. John DeDonker can tell you every part of that course. I barely remember. I know like what the aid stations, what they were like. I just don't know the names of them all. Like
Right,
Outward Bound and Half Pipe and
right,
all that.
right.
But yeah. Um. Let's rewind. I know the last time that I talked with your brother, I didn't know anything about your family, and he talked about your mom and your dad and everything like that. But growing up where I did, it was pretty unique. I had two brothers. You guys, I think all boys except for Jane,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And having uh like just kind of walk me through what it was like. Because here's the thing. When I talk with my older brother now, and we just went on a cruise together in January, his memory of growing up, is a little different perspective of what my life was like growing up with him. But
Right,
the memories
right,
are like different. The
right. Okay.
experience was different.
Yeah.
So maybe just walk through like your whole family structure and what it was like growing up here in Bettendorf. And
Um, yeah, so like, I've got Pat's 6 years younger than I am. I'm not really in the middle. I have two older brothers that are now deceased, and my sister Jane, who is now deceased. They were older than me. So five kids, right? Um, excuse me, growing up in Bettendorf, middle income, middle class income. Both parents worked. My dad worked over Arsenal Island. My mom was director of nursing at Moline Public Hospital. So, we were, you got four Miletich boys with
yeah,
very, very little supervision.
yeah,
You're bound to get in a little bit of trouble from time to time. Um, so I mean, I played sports through high school. I wasn't. I wasn't really into it. I liked sports, but my dad was a football coach for a parochial league here in town. He, if I don't know. I guess he ruined sports for me. Um, just because he was always, the pushing. You always want your son to push and be better. And that just wasn't me. I wanted to play. I wanted to have some fun.
yeah.
I mean, I loved football because, you could legally hit people and not go to jail for it. And I enjoyed that part of it. I had a lot of pent up frustration, but, I mean, it was, you know, alcohol played a huge role in our lives. I don't know if my dad was an alcoholic or not. I mean, who's to say he may have been? But I am. I'm a recovering alcoholic
Yeah.
and drug addict. So going on 30 some years. I started drinking when I was probably 15 or 16.
Hmm.
I mean, we watched it every day with my dad. And I mean, they say children, they live what they learn.
Yep.
You see it all the time. That's
Yeah.
acceptable.
Yeah.
Let's, all right, let's. One of the funniest stories that I can remember is that my dad got into this winemaking gig, right? So he had the basement. They kind of finished the basement off. That was where he would entertain his golf buddies or his coach buddies, okay? And so we would get into this. He wanted to learn how to make wine, so he started these, and we figured out that when you put these balloons over the bottles,
Oh yeah.
and then the balloons inflate and then they deflate, right? And then you put a cork on it, and you let it sit, and you got yourself some good wine. Well, we figured out that, or I did anyway. I don't know if anybody else in my family did. That once the balloons had deflated, you could drink it,
Okay.
right? And so we would take a bottle, and we wouldn't drink it all. We'd drink about half of it, and then we would put water in it and put the
Oh
balloon,
yeah.
and then put the balloon back over the top and put it back on the shelf.
Right.
Okay, and then my dad would have his buddies come over and he's, hey, try some of this wine that I made, right? And they're like, God damn, Jack, this stuff tastes terrible. This is terrible, right? And he never did catch on to
Oh
the
my
fact,
God.
never caught on to the fact. I mean, he would even taste it. He goes, yeah, you're right. It is pretty bad. Yeah. And so that didn't last very long. But I mean, that's my first experience with drinking,
Yeah.
pretty much. Um,
So wait, what? Let me just fix this camera real quick. So what about like? So you're the third son,
Third son,
right?
fourth
So what
child.
was that like with the two older brothers?
Battle royal all the time,
Yeah.
all the time, all the time, all the time.
And how much older were they? Like what was the age gaps?
So it's actually like a 1 year gap. So I'm 65. Jane, God rest her soul, 66. Tommy was 67 and Bill 68.
So wow.
So it was like boom, 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 four in a row, and then there was a 6 year,
Yeah.
break in the action, and then Pat
And then
comes along.
Pat.
Yeah.
That's funny because like my older brother is a year, and then 6 years for my younger brother.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, it is,
So what did they do? Did they play sports? Did they, were they into
um,
cars? Because now we're talking, let's see, what year are we talking here? We're talking the early 70s?
yeah, yeah. Bill. Everybody. I mean, we all worked. Various whatever jobs, but I guess my oldest brother Bill was into. He loved demolition derbies,
Oh, okay.
right? I mean, he would go and him and his buddy Ricky Plummer would go and buy a Plymouth Fury 3. I mean, the thing weighs like 6 tons.
Yeah.
And then they'd
Right.
retrofit it, and he liked doing that. Tommy went to school at the University of Iowa. He graduated from Iowa, went into the Air Force, was a first lieutenant in the Air Force,
Hmm.
got married, had three boys up in Minnesota. They're all in the military or were in the military. Um, he was a terminal supervisor at Roadway Trucking for years and years and years. So um, Tommy was the smartest one of the bunch.
Well, not a pretty low bar.
But we look we would fight. Brothers. I mean, we would fight. Well, it got to the point where my dad turned our garage. We had a single car garage that was underneath the one end of the house,
Hmm.
and he turned that into a bedroom
Okay.
for the four boys. And we're talking four teenage boys,
Yeah.
right? Not a lot of room
Yeah.
to stretch your legs out down there. But that's how my dad dealt with, us constantly fighting.
Let's get in the basement or get in this little, yeah.
Right, concrete walls.
Yeah.
Right,
Oh,
go down
oh,
there,
yeah. Wow.
cinder block walls. If you're gonna fight, go here. You go.
Yeah.
Cell block number 9.
Yeah, right. The Miletich prison.
Oh my goodness, yeah. Well, it was what but if somebody got into a fight with us,
Oh, yeah.
then it was like, hey, you can't do that,
Right.
And then everybody would rally the troops.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I think that kind of saved me a few times growing up, having that older brother. And my older brother is like probably, he's a big dude, right? He's big, and he would, if you messed with one of us, it was like you were messing with the whole family.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
bet it was probably similar to that. I remember Pat having a few stories about bar fights and stuff. So, you mentioned 30 years sober, and you started drinking at 15. When did it become like a major problem, and when did the drugs, like, what led you to do all that stuff? Was, I
Right.
mean, it was the 70s, so I'm assuming it was like
Eh,
cultural, social, like what?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot of it had to do with environment,
Yeah,
who you hung out with,
right.
right? Peer pressure, uh, 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 and, wanting to be, I guess, for lack of a better term, accepted by other people. You did what they did, right?
Hmm.
Um, I didn't, so my alcohol drinking and my drug use really didn't become, I don't know when it actually became a problem for me. I'm sure it became a problem for others earlier than it
Yeah,
than
I know what you
than
mean.
than, than
Yep,
me
yep,
recognizing that, hey, dude, you got a problem,
yeah.
right? I realized that I had a problem in 1993 when they cuffed me and took me to jail,
Okay.
um, and I was going away for quite a while. I was going to go. I knew I was going to go to prison. I did, and they saved my life. If you ever go to prison, which I don't ever suggest anybody does it, but you'll be in a place where everybody's innocent. Okay, I shouldn't be here. I should have been there. I should have been there earlier. They saved my life. Okay, I mean, when I arrived, to the penitentiary, I'm like, oh my God, reality actually hit. Oh my God, Johnny, if you ever want to see the free world and um, be a productive person, what you're doing now and what you've been doing up to this point has been totally wrong, obviously.
Yeah,
So there was this light came on, and I'm like, okay, it's time to change. And they did me a favor, they saved my life. And I'm forever grateful. A lot of people wouldn't say that. A lot of, I mean, when you come, I've seen guys go, in the amount of time that I was incarcerated, I would see guys get out and come back
yeah,
and get out and come back again. And I'm like, dude, you haven't figured this out yet,
yeah.
And I kept saying, look, I will. This will never happen again. This is a one and done for me. Um, and for doing the time, the worst part about going away was it was hard on my kids.
Yeah.
I had I had two boys, and I mean, Sam, Joe, and Katie. They had three kids, that were going through school. You miss the daughter dad dances. You miss your kids playing sports. So it was hard on them. It was harder on them than it was on me, and that's something that took a while for me to get back once I got out.
Yeah.
There's that trust factor. Um, do we let him back into our lives only to have this happen again? Right. Um, but thankfully, I learned my lesson and I remained clean and sober for I don't know, 33 years, something like that.
How long were you in?
8.5 years.
God damn.
Yeah, I did. Uh, yeah, most of it I did out at the Iowa State Penitentiary in Fort Madison. And um, it's a hard place. Well, it's a museum now.
Oh, wow.
Um,
Okay.
but uh, Fort Madison was the first federal penitentiary west of the Mississippi. So if you've seen pictures of Alcatraz
Yeah.
where it's stone and steel,
Yeah.
that's what Fort Madison looks like. It's stone and steel. Um, so I did a majority of my time there, but I was always involved in classes. Like
Hmm.
I took accounting classes. I worked in the recreation department where we would plan, euchre tournaments, pool tournaments, football tournaments. We had a weight yard where we could lift weights. We built a running track, which was an eighth of a mile. one loop was an eighth of a mile. We did that. So I was always involved with, activities that helped to pass the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But you got to find something,
Yeah.
otherwise
8 years.
drive you nuts.
Yeah.
Um, and I wasn't one of those, sit here and mark,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
another day off. I just, when if I ever get out, it'll be great. Once a year you go up and you see the parole board, and of course, I knew at least for the first 5 years it was no, um, and then after that eighth year, uh, they granted me a parole, and I'm like, man, all right, I'm ready to.
What was the original sentence? Like what term?
So I was actually, so this is where the alcohol comes into play, kind of, sort of. Um, I had already been convicted of a Class D felony, which is a 5-year felony,
Okay.
um, for OWI third offense. So I was on parole for that. Now, a Class D felony, 5-year sentence, they could have shipped me off and could have sent me to prison. But they put me in the work release department in Davenport. So I did my time there
Yep.
when I worked, and I worked it off. So I was already on parole. You talk about having a problem.
Yeah.
You're already on, you're already doing time basically. And then, it just got worse and worse and worse. The denial aspect of it's unreal. That's how much of a grip it can get on you. And then add to the fact that now you're not only an alcoholic, but you're sitting here and you're getting hammered and you're also doing dope. I mean, let's make a bad situation even worse.
Yeah. Right.
But I got charged with armed robbery, which is a 25-year sentence.
Oh.
Okay, and they charged me with 4 of them. So you do the math. That's 100 years.
So did you do the 4?
Well, we worked out. Look,
No, I'm saying you got charged with 4
I
armed robberies,
was charged with 4, but I was only convicted of 1.
but did you actually commit the armed robberies?
Yes.
That's okay. I mean, I'm laughing, but it's really it's nothing to laugh about. But I mean, what? All right, like what to me? What's
The fact that, well, if you think that's funny, I robbed the same gas station back to back weekends. So that tells you the insanity of the drugs
Yeah,
and the alcohol.
yeah,
Okay, I mean it does. It's total insanity.
yeah.
Okay,
And what kind of drugs were you doing?
crack, cocaine. That's when smoke a little weed, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So not you're in an altered state. You're not thinking correctly. And
right,
So what was the motivation to rob a gas station? You needed the money?
right for
Okay.
let's just keep this.
Yeah, yeah,
Let's just keep it going.
yeah,
Right. Yeah. You don't. You're not into working a job.
yeah,
When you're in that. You know what I mean? Like it was insanity. It was total insanity, and there were actual people that you know friends of mine or acquaintances or whatever going, wow. I mean, it shocked Mark. Well, do you know Mark Kelling?
no,
Mark Kelling's a retired police officer here in Bettendorf.
okay.
He lived close to Pat out there at Venwood's Edition when we had the fireworks and everything.
Oh yeah,
Mark and I played baseball together, Pony League baseball. We were 17 years old. Um, he couldn't. He was actually one of the officers there when they originally arrested me. He goes, Johnny, what are you doing?
yeah,
Because it was totally uncharacteristic.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
So, like you said, an altered state. And but society doesn't care about that. Really, they want justice.
yeah,
Back in, and I deserved everything I got. It was just one of those things. Look, you screwed up. Now is the time for you to make some changes. there's no guarantee that I'll ever walk out of here. I saw 3 people die in prison. You
Yeah,
talk
it's
about a
crazy.
lonely place to die,
Yeah.
right? And I mean, you can't get any lonelier than that. I would prefer to die under a tree out in the middle of the forest by myself than to die in prison around a bunch of,
Yeah. You can say it.
a bunch of freaking crazy people,
Yeah.
like me. you know, Everybody knows everybody, but you don't know everybody. You don't want, I would never associate with any of those folks today.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and I don't mean that in a bad way. It's just that that's not who I am today.
Yeah, I agree with that. So like that to me, I think there's this probably people have you're either one it's probably bipolar, meaning you either believe in giving people second chances or you don't, right? Like
Right.
and then to me I've realized now, and I'm going to be 58 this year, is that like you do go through these stages of your life where you are a different person. Like people say, "Oh, I'm never going to change." Yeah, you are. You're going to change all throughout your life.
Mhm.
I'm not the same as I was when I was 13 and what I was thinking and all that. So like, I think it is a struggle for people to say give that guy a second chance, or they're not the same person. And I don't want to air anyone's dirty laundry, but like a person we were talking about earlier is not the same person he was 7 years ago to today.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I think
Right.
that is,
And when I was released and I came, so I had to transition. I just wasn't kicked out and then, okay, here you go, you're on your own.
yeah.
I transitioned again through their work release department.
Okay.
Okay. And that was at the time when Pat had his training facility up at Gold's Gym. So Pat was very instrumental in getting me a job up there, which I turned into, a pretty good, lack of a better term, gig.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, I maintained that whole facility. I cleaned the inside of it. I had my couple people working for me. Then I went into my landscaping because I loved landscaping. Okay, and I started my landscaping business. And I knew I needed it, I couldn't do it all. And because I got a second chance, I
Hmm.
would go and I would interview guys and girls down at 605 Main Street in Davenport, which is the work release department. Let's get some people
Yeah.
a second chance. Nonviolent, nonviolent people that, you got a drug charge or, an OWI or what have you. And I would hire people out of that facility. I mean, and it worked out great because they needed a job.
Yep.
They had to show up for work every day, right?
Mandatory. Yeah.
Yeah, it was mandatory,
Yep.
And I mean, I got a federal tax break on it, so it all,
Smart.
yeah, it worked out really well, and a lot of them were really good employees. They
Yeah.
loved the work.
Yeah.
So,
Um, I think that recently I've heard so many podcasts with people that were in prison and got out, and the most impactful one I just heard was this guy Greg Kelly. I don't know if you heard that story. So Ken Rideout, the guy that was talking about the runner that won the Austin half, he did. He's I think he was on Ken's podcast. His name's Greg Kelly. He's from Texas. But anyway, I'll send you the link. This guy. The reason I'm asking is that he talked about what it was like, the difference between jail, and I knew this from growing up where I did, and prison is a significant difference between jail and prison. But he said that when he was in jail and he was going to go to prison, there was one guy that actually helped him like understand what's going to happen to you when you go to prison. Like it's going to be this. And I've heard like 3 podcasts of guys that explained it almost identical. So my question for you is like you see it in the movies and there's gangs and this and that and all that kind of stuff, but what was that like for you? I mean, did you end up like going through any of that stuff where you're going to prison with all these convicted people?
um, well, I mean, in my mind, I mean, I guess, and I don't know if it is how it is for others, but our minds want to make it out to be worse than it actually ends up being. At least for me, the county jail's terrible. I did 6 months there because I was having discussions, back and forth with the county attorney. I went to school with the county attorney, you know, and so we're working on, what's the best deal they're going to give me, and they actually gave me a pretty good. He got his conviction. We didn't have to, we saved the state a bunch of money. Didn't have to go to trial anyway. County jail is you're in a cell. You're in a 10-man tank,
Yeah.
and you're not going anywhere. I mean, it's no bigger than this room. This room's actually probably a little bit bigger. So you're in close quarters with 10, 11 other people. If overcrowding is an issue, then you've got 13, 14 people in there. Okay. And nowhere to go. You get an hour on the rooftop for recreation in the county jail. So the transition from there to prison, at least in the state of Iowa, you go to a place called Oakdale,
Okay.
which is just outside of Iowa City. That's the receiving center. It's the MCC. That's where everybody goes who's going to prison. You go there first. They classify you based on your convictions, and then they decide where to send you, you know, based on those
Yeah.
convictions.
Yep.
They do have a general population there. They have initially I was in a 2-man tank there. I mean, it was all steel. It's a huge dorm style living facility, but there's individual cells, 2 guys here, 2 guys there, 2 guys there. There's 100 of us. I chose to do a little bit of my time there just because I was close to home, and maybe I could convince somebody to bring my kids up to see me once or twice, which did happen. But I hung out with, when I finally went to the general population side of Oakdale, and when I went to Fort Madison, I hung out with people that were doing life sentences or large numbers, 50 years, 75, 90, life. And why? Well, number one, I'm going to be there a while. All right. So let's get to know some of these guys.
Yeah.
Number two, this is their house. This is
Yeah.
their home.
Yep.
They're living here. The lifers, they're going to die here.
Yeah.
So by hanging out with them and getting to know them guys, you're kind of in a protected class, I guess. For lack of a better term. And it was, we got out. From sun up to sundown, we were out. We could go work out in the yard. We could go to the library. We could go throw a football around. So there was some freedom there inside the walls, I guess. You could read, but it was all dorms. There it was dorm style living. It was barracks. It was bunk bed, bunk bed, bunk bed, bunk bed. Two 2 rooms with 100 guys in each one.
Oh man.
So I mean,
No privacy.
no privacy, no air conditioning. I mean, there was no amenities. Okay, I mean, it was, but you dealt with it. So there was, I my biggest thing with being in prison was the fact that I was away from my kids.
Yeah.
But you know what? Before I went to prison, I was in no shape to be with my kids.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I would avoid them. I mean, I was constantly drinking or
Yeah.
doping or both.
Yeah.
So I was in no position to be around 3 young children at the time. Like I said, they did me a favor by locking me up.
So when you what? So you what? How old were you when in?
93, in 1993.
And how? So like, see how old you are.
So I was born in 1960. So I was 33,
And you got out at 40,
41.
41.
Yeah.
So and no problems in there. Never got any fights or anything.
I came close to one fight when I was in general population in Oakdale. I never got in any. I got in one little scuffle right at the very end of my time in prison. I had already received my parole, but I had to wait for a bed to open
Yeah,
up.
yeah, yeah.
So you're kind of waiting there, and some smart ass wouldn't shut up one night, and I'm like, dude, everybody's trying to sleep. Shut up.
Yeah.
He was like, well, Miletich, you got your parole. You're not going to do anything.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh.
wrong move. Wrong move. So I went back and I said, look, I'm going to ask you. Uh, uh, Brian Richards was his name. I said, Brian, just, dude, go to bed. Just lay down, go to bed, listen to some music, watch some TV. No, you ain't gonna do it. I ended up hitting him like 8 or 9 times, and I should have never hit him in the face, right? Because then you leave a mark,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
and if COs see the mark, they're gonna
They
ask
ask
you
you,
what
yeah.
happened to you.
Right.
Oh, Miletich punched me. There goes my parole.
Right.
Right? Now I'm back for who knows how long. I told him, I said, stay here all day today. You're not going anywhere, dude. You avoid any contact with any of these COs. Okay. And it worked out. I mean, nobody said anything, and I was ended up like 2 days later, they gave me $5 and a bus pass. And I'm on my way back to Davenport. Yeah.
Wow.
Crazy
Yeah.
life. And I've lived a pretty crazy life.
I know.
Um,
I want to hear more. I want to hear more of, like, I've heard Pat tell a few stories about like bar fights in the area or
oh
whatever.
my
I don't
God.
know if you were involved in any of those, but
He insists to this day that we ruined his birthday party down at one of the local watering holes. It was called the Par Four. My brother Bill and I got into a fight in the back room, and
with each other or with other
no,
people?
with each other.
Okay.
Because he was wearing my leather jacket or something
Oh,
like that. And I'm like, dude, what are you doing wearing my jacket? Shut up, Johnny. Next thing you know, we're fighting in the kitchen, and Bill hits me over the head with a cast iron skillet. Right?
jeez.
Tries to knock me out, and it spills out into the bar. And of course, Pat's all pissed off about God damn, you ruined my birthday party, right? So anyway, yeah, we had a few of them. Pat was more into, you know, Pat and his crew of people. They did a lot more bar fighting than I did. No, I couldn't fight. I couldn't, especially if I was drunk.
Yeah.
There's no way. I couldn't. I just couldn't fight, so I didn't.
Yeah.
I avoided that, but that was the one fight that I remember. My brother Bill and I got into that fight in the back room down at Par Four. I've seen plenty of bar fights. I've watched Pat beat some guys up
Yeah.
in the parking lot that one night, and I didn't know it at the time, but I think it was one of his good friends today, Mark Hansen. You remember him talking about Mark?
I don't.
Mark was a Davenport police officer for years and years and years. Trained with them guys down there at his facility there on 16th Street. Um, but way back in the day, I think Mark was at one of the bars, and Pat and his buddies ended up beating up like 6 or 7. I mean, when them guys would fight, they'd beat up like 6, 7, 8 guys.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I'd be lucky to get a hold of one of them.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. So you mentioned when you got out, he gave you a job and you were doing that. For how long did you do that? And what was that like working there? I mean, you talked a little bit about, but I mean, you're talking about now, like working at the place where all these guys are training to be world champions. That
Yeah.
must have been pretty cool to watch.
It was really, yeah, it was cool. I mean, at the time, I was just focused on doing a good job.
Yeah.
I
Yeah, yeah,
mean,
yeah.
it started out as 20 hours a week so it was kind of a part-time gig, and then his name was John. I can't remember his last name, but he was the manager at Gold's at the time.
Okay.
And he had come up to me and he goes, "Hey," he goes, "you're doing such a good job." He goes, "Why don't you draw up a contract and give it to me? And I want to hire you to take care of everything." I mean, I did everything. I mean, we cleaned all the machines,
Mm-hmm.
wipe them down, disinfect them. And the night we'd mop the floors, clean the bathrooms, the locker rooms, and then we would mow the. I mean, I would mow the lawn out front, maintain all the shrubs.
Yeah.
I changed all the air conditioning filters on the rooftops. I mean, it was total maintenance. It was a total maintenance package. Um, and it became a full-time thing. I mean, I was making, like $28,000 a year. That's not too bad for a guy who just, you know, just walked out of prison.
Yeah.
And I did that for, I think we did that for about 3 years. Well, we did it until until they sold the building, and then they asked Pat to, you know, your training facility no longer meets with our our image. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah. Yeah.
so we had to find a different place. That's when and so when he left, I left. Well, I don't have any attachment to this place anymore. So,
Yeah.
and then that's when I went out and started my own landscaping business.
And you still doing? And what year was that? That's
That
got to
was,
be.
man, that's hard. It's hard to remember what year that was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I've been doing it ever since. I started with, I mean, I Pat co-signed on because I had no credit at the time.
Yeah.
Pat actually co-signed on a truck loan, and I bought a little Dodge Dakota pickup. I mean, little pickup truck.
Yeah.
But it served my purposes at the time because I was just starting out.
Yeah.
And I did a couple of small patios. I mean, I ended up building a pretty good reputation.
Yeah.
Over the years for patios and retaining walls.
Yeah.
We did a lot of koi pond work. Right down the road here, where I mean, you're just around the corner from where Rick and Jeannie
Yep.
used to live.
Yeah.
Down around the corner. There's a
Yep.
big patio down there that we did for them guys.
Yeah.
So I mean, I built, but that's a young man's game now. I mean, I'm not. I was actually lifting 90-pound wall block down to my son and two guys when my spleen was all swollen up.
Yeah.
And they told me to go lay down. They said, "Don't." They said, "If your spleen ruptures, you're dead."
Yeah. Yeah.
With the cancer. And I said, "Well, I got to get this job done."
Yeah.
And I had like 45 of these 90-pound blocks to get off my truck. And the customer was there. He knew that I was sick. He knew that this was the last job. I had already found work for my guys with other landscaping crews. So I was able to take care of them. But yeah, I mean, it was something that I loved, and I did it all the way through about 2019, during Leadville, was my last year doing it. I was done. I lost the love for it, I guess you could say.
Well, you had a lot going on.
I did. My oncologist at that time said, you probably had that cancer in 2019 when you ran Leadville. You just didn't know it.
Yeah.
It hadn't manifested itself to a point where you were experiencing any symptoms. And then of course, I come back and it's like, I'm not feeling too good.
So this kind of cancer, and I can't remember the name of it, but is there like an acronym for it or anything? Like, what is it? Mantle cell
lymphoma.
Lymphoma. Okay.
Yeah.
And when I think of cancer, my mom had lung cancer. She passed away in 2001. And then when I hear like my ex-mother-in-law, she had ovarian cancer. So like the cancers that have tumors and stuff like, right? So like this mantle cell, it's a blood cancer.
It's a blood cancer.
But is there tumors, or is it just it just wreaks havoc on your blood?
Yeah, so it wreaks havoc on your organs because the blood flowing
Goes
through
through it.
your organs.
Yep. Kidneys, liver, all that.
Right, the spleen.
Yeah.
My last encounter, we'll call it. My liver and my spleen they were battling for position, and they were swelling up to the point where I looked like I was 8 months pregnant.
Yeah.
I mean, and I couldn't breathe. I couldn't eat. It was very painful. And that being said, the treatments are just as bad.
Yeah.
I'll never do it again. I'm done. The fact that it was, and there again, My sister Jane has passed away, a couple of years ago. She died of lung cancer. She had tumors. The way this cancer works is the cancer cells, um, they figure out a way to mm, disguise themselves so that they can get around your treatments.
Okay.
I did a chemo drug. It was a pill, 2 pills a day. It's called Brukinza. That was the one that I stopped after 10 days because in 10 days I lost 25 pounds. Um, I couldn't eat. I mean,
Yeah.
and I told Wendy, and so I had the most intense sweating, followed by chills, and the only way to eliminate those chills was to get in the shower, turn it on as hot as you could
Oh,
stand it.
man. Yeah.
And now you've warmed up, right? And you put on another pair of sweats and a hoodie and whatever, and you go crawl back to your air mattress where you start sweating again. So it's nonstop. And I finally told Wendy, I said, I'm done. I said, I'm not doing this. You're not going to take care of me and your mom at the same time. We went out to Iowa City. I told my oncologist, I said, you know what? And I was so mad I was crying. I was so pissed. I was crying. I looked at him and I said, if you experienced half of the side effects that I fucking experienced
Yeah.
at the level that I experienced these things, you would never prescribe this shit to anybody ever again. I
Yeah.
said, this is pure poison. And I stopped it and I went back and I started doing my organics. I got with Sean Schneider. I was doing 50,000 milligrams of IV high dose vitamin C like twice a week. I was doing what's called ozone treatments, and ozone is pretty cool. Um, we breathe O2. Ozone is one additional oxygen molecule. It's O3. They would pull blood out of my body and put it in a bag. Then they would oxygenate it with ozone and then put it back in. So the understanding is cancer patients want to oxygenate their bodies and become as alkaline as possible. You can't be too alkaline because you'll die. You got to have some acid in your body for digestion
Yeah.
and other things. But you can get at like a 7.5 pH or an 8.0 pH if you can maintain that and oxygenate. That's why the fulvic minerals are huge, because of the oxygenation and because it's an alkalizing agent, not to mention the fact that it detoxes your body. It
Yeah.
pulls all that garbage out. I stopped all that stuff prior to doing this last thing because I didn't want to jeopardize the outcome of the T cell
Yeah. 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 The treatment.
of the T cell treatment.
Yep.
So I stopped everything, um, and now I'm back at it.
So
Um,
talk about the T cell. Like, was this like? I mean, you hear about bone marrow transplants and stuff like that,
right,
or
right.
like. And I just remember a long time ago, and I think I had on. No, I know I did. I had on Stacia Carroll, and she talked about her liver transplant and becoming a donor. And I remember how like to be a bone marrow donor and to have that donor, it was very invasive for the donor a long time ago. But now it's like I guess less invasive.
Right.
They've advanced a lot on that. So walk me through this treatment that you just did.
So,
Like what did it physically and all that, like what does it entail?
okay, yeah. So, everybody has T cells. They're white blood cells. White blood cells are the ones that fight infection, bacterias, viruses and things of that nature. But the T cells, from what I've been told and understand, is they're kind of like the generals.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and the cancer has found out. Has found the cancer cells have found a way to disguise themselves so that my white blood cells don't attack and kill them. So now they have to figure out, okay, how do we get his white blood cells, um, to not be recognized so that they can go and hunt these. It's a battle, is what it is. It's like good versus evil. So what the process of the T cell transplant is, they pull my T cells out of my body. They separate. There's all these fancy, big fancy machines, right? And they pull my blood out. They separate whatever it is. I don't know how many they need, but it's a half a bag
Hmm.
of these T cells. And then they'll run the other blood, they put it back in. They take these T cells and they send them. I think there's two facilities in this country. One's in California, and I believe the other one's in Maryland. And they genetically modify the T cells. Um, they add what's called like a receptor to these T cells, and then they replicate them to the point where they get 500 million
Yeah,
of
yeah.
whatever the number is that they need. But it's not. I had asked the doctor. I said, "Well, is this going to change my DNA?" I'm a little concerned about that. I don't, He goes, "No, because everything we're using is coming from your body anyway. We're not making something outside of your body and attaching it to these T cells. They put a little, they call it a receptor uh, on the T cells, and then they put them back in your body. But before they put them back in your body, you have to go through 3 days of chemo, and it was terrible. The chemo was terrible. They say the treatment's worse than the
Hmm.
than the disease itself. Um, in some instances, it was, it would be hard to tell the difference,
Yeah.
okay, between the side effects I'm experiencing from this chemotherapy drug or the fact that I've got full blown cancer over here. You would see the same result. There he is curled up, on the ground. He's not living. He's
Yeah.
just existing.
Yeah.
You know. But this last time I'd lost 30 pounds. I was down to 150 pounds. 33 pounds, I think I lost. I couldn't eat. I mean, it's just so and that's where the mental part of it comes into play. I mean, the physical part of it, it's going to happen. And even though you know it's going to happen, um, each day, you seem like you get a little bit better. I had to stay in the hospital. I went in Christmas Eve. So I was there Christmas, New Year's, all that. After they put the T cells back in my body, they had to monitor me for side effects,
Yeah.
more side effects, right? Because now you've got these super snipers they just put in your body. It's gonna and they act so fast that they go around and they kill these cancer cells so fast that your body doesn't have time to adjust,
Hmm.
and then you experience more side effects from it.
Yeah.
Number one, chills. I didn't experience anything for the first 7 days. Okay? Then I started to experience them. I started getting the chills, started getting a slight headache. The biggest side effect, the one that they were more concerned about, was uh, after the day eight, you're going to experience some cognitive
Mm.
issues. You're not, you may not know who that person is or who that person is.
Really? Oh
You
man.
you may not know what day it is. You may not know where you're at. You may not be able to count back from 100 by tens. And so they would always do these little tests whenever
Hmm.
they come in. And I did pretty good, except for the last day. I couldn't remember, what year it was,
Yeah.
things like that. But they still let me go home. I told them I wanted to go home. I'm going home.
Yeah.
All right. And that was on day 14. I'm ready to go home because I mean, I didn't eat anything for almost a week. I mean, literally did not eat any food for a week. It tasted terrible.
Yeah.
There was, I ordered a 6-inch Subway sandwich and had it door dashed to the hospital, and it tasted terrible.
Yeah.
You could have put a bone-in ribeye from Johnny's Italian Steakhouse
Yeah.
in front of me, and because of the chemo, it wouldn't have tasted like a steak. It would have been it wouldn't it didn't matter what it was.
Yeah.
So I'm not eating anything. And I told him, and I said, look, if you think I'm going to get any better laying in this bed, not eating your food and drinking only water, I got news for you. It's not going to happen. I want to go home. I'm not dying in this hospital. I'm going home on day 14. And, against better judgment, they let me go home. And look where I'm at.
Yeah.
I've put all my weight back on. I weigh
Mhm.
180, probably 184 pounds, which is right about where I should be. I mean, I like to weigh 200 pounds,
Yeah.
but my walking around weighs 185, 190. A little on the thin side, but that's just where I'm at.
Yeah.
I mean,
So it here's the thing that I've kind of like observed recently, like in the last 10 years, I'll say. Um, I feel like medicine and has gotten advanced, right? So there's been some great advancements in medicine and technology, MRIs and CAT scans and all these tests that they can do. But at the same time, I feel like doctors have devolved. And what I mean by that is that if you're not your own advocate doctor, then you're going to go through the system and you'd probably be dead 5 years ago because you listened to the, hey, let's massively dose you with chemo because that's what we're going to do.
um, yes, you have to be your own advocate. Back when my mom was the director of nursing, doctors would come in and they would explain to you all your options. Okay, we can do this,
Yeah, yeah,
this,
yeah.
this, this. This is what happens if we do this.
Yep.
This is what happens if we do this. You don't get that anymore.
No.
You will not get that unless you ask.
Right.
And God bless her soul, Wendy. I mean, if Wendy wasn't in my life, I wouldn't have done this. I wouldn't have. I would not have gone through the. We were at and she's always asking questions.
Yeah.
She
That's good.
she did with her dad, she did with her mom, she's done it with me, she does it for herself. I mean, she's always been around and been there for everybody else. Um, but it's like if you don't ask, they're not going to offer the information up to you.
Yeah.
They're gonna. But we were sitting in the waiting room up there in Iowa City. I was going to get some blood work done. Um, and one of the nurses came out and they call you by your first name.
Yeah.
They said, hey, Margaret, Margaret S. And there's this older gal in a wheelchair sitting there. Nobody's with her.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And we know she's got cancer, otherwise she wouldn't be there.
Right.
Okay. The nurse walks over and asks her, is there anybody with you? And she goes, no. I can't think of a worse feeling in the world than to have to go through a bout
Yeah.
of cancer and have nobody in your life to help you with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You talk about being, on an island alone and being, I mean, she's probably in her, upper 70s or low 80s, and she's there by herself. And that's like I said, I would have never gone, I would have never done this if Wendy weren't. She's wheeling me around in a
Yeah.
in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
I can't walk. We were going the one time that we were going to go see the doctors for blood work. I kid you not. I'm laying on her. I'm laying on her lap, and I'm crying because I was in such pain.
Yeah.
And I look down on the floor, and there's blood on the floor. I'm bleeding out of my nose. My blood was so thin that, and I said, hey, Wendy, I'm bleeding. And they finally came out and got me into a room, So the pain was so intense that, I won't do it again. I won't. Unless they come up with, between now and the time I get it again, here's a pill that has no side effects and
Yeah.
it'll cure you. I mean, if I get 5 years, dude, I'll be 70. For Johnny Miletich to live to be 70 years old, that in and of itself is a
Yeah.
miracle.
Yeah.
I mean, given all the stupid things I've done in my life.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
you got to, I mean, you got to take that as a. I'm going to take that as a
It's a win.
win.
It's a win. Yeah.
That's a win.
Yeah.
Um, Leadville was a win. Dude, I tell you, Austin and I, we joke about this all the time. So in 2019, we're walking. I don't know. We're walking down one of the side streets, and Pat peels off and gets into this pickup truck, right? And Austin goes, Johnny, that's not our truck. So it was a silver pickup.
Oh,
We had Austin's Dodge.
yeah,
He
yeah,
went in the Dodge
yeah,
out there, and it
yeah,
was a silver Dodge,
yeah,
right? And he goes, hey, I gotta go tell your brother. I said, no, 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 dude,
yeah,
let's
yeah,
play this one out.
yeah,
Let's let this play out,
yeah.
right? Well, the people had just gotten out of this pickup truck, and they're standing there, and they're looking through the windshield of their truck, and they see Pat sitting in the passenger seat in the front seat. He's like, oh wow, I guess this is. So, but we had a good time. Austin said that was one of the best times he had ever had was when we went out there, and we stayed at Copper Mountain
Yeah.
that year because we couldn't get
Getting any
anything any
close.
closer,
Yeah,
which was fun. It was a good time.
yeah. I think just going out to the mountains is a cool thing.
It is.
Just
It
being
is.
up there and
I would like to get out there, maybe do their marathon.
supposedly,
They say it's hard.
I mean, I guess, yeah, think about it. I
They,
think I don't remember how many thousand feet of gain it is, but it's a lot.
it's a
And
lot.
when you're cramming it into 26 miles
Yeah.
and you're doing, I think it's over 10,000 feet of elevation with elevation.
So what's the next easiest race? I don't think there is an easy
Well,
race
they
out there, is
have
there?
the 10K.
I could probably do 10K.
Well, you know what's funny? I didn't know, and I asked the Donker last time he was on. So I don't know if you know this, but the mountain bike 100 is harder to get into than any of them. Yeah. And he said, so what people will do, not that they're gaming the system, but they'll enter the lead. It's not the lead man challenge anymore because it's PC. It's like the lead challenge now.
Okay.
And so when you enter the lead challenge, it's not a lottery. You get in and you're entered into every race. So like you have to do 5 out of the 6,
Right, right, right.
and apparently that's what people are trying to to get into the bike,
Just to get into
just
the
to get into the
bike.
bike.
So it's kind of along the same lines as
I don't know.
when I did. So um, last year was my first year doing the Bix.
That's so crazy.
Yeah, but well,
Wait, so you did?
I did. Last year was the very first year I ever ran Bex. Okay, because I always used to joke and I said, "Oh, that's child's play,"
Yeah,
right?
right.
Right. Um, but what I found out was, so I put, you got to put a
The
time in
time,
there.
yeah, prediction.
Yeah,
Yeah, right, 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 right.
well, people would lie,
Yeah, oh yeah,
and so that they
oh
would get
yeah.
farther up into these groups. Next thing you know, for the first 3.5 miles, I'm dodging
Yeah, you're
walkers.
walking. Yeah,
I,
yeah.
I mean, come on.
I know.
Yeah. So I mean, to try and sit there and have, I just did it for the experience.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll never do it again.
It is probably the worst race that I've ever done. Like in terms of it's you want it's that 7, so it's 7 miles and it's rolling hills the whole entire
Yeah,
time.
yeah, yeah.
And so when you look at it from a like a runner's mind, you say I want to run fast. It's possible, but it's pretty hard to do. And you know, 7 miles isn't chump change either. So it's like in that between stage of like it's not a half,
But
it's not a 5K, and there's 10,000 people.
there's so many people.
Yeah,
And then you've got these side activities
yeah, yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
like the
The
weight, like
slides.
the slides and the guys that are pumping iron down at the
Yeah, yeah,
bottom of the hill,
yeah.
and all of that stuff. I did it for the experience.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, I'm not a fast runner anyway. So whatever time I
Yeah, it
had,
didn't matter.
whatever
You're
whatever
finishing.
time I had is going to be the best time I've ever had
Right,
because I'm never running it again.
right.
You know.
This year is the first year. Like I always, like you said, I was like, oh, 7 miles, whatever. That's not that long, but it's a race, right?
Right.
This year, I don't know why I decided not to do the 7. I just said I'm going to do the 2. I just did the quick fix.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's still hard because you still got to go up Brady, but then, you kind of just turn around and there's a little rolling hill and you go downhill. And I was like, I'll do this forever now. 2
2
miles.
miles.
Yeah.
That's not even a 5K.
No.
No.
And then I don't know if I know I talked about it with Michelle Juring, who was on, they have the senior Bics.
Yeah, I was thinking about the
That
senior mix.
Me and
Yeah,
Andy
that'd be
Besser did
good.
it this year, first time,
Yeah,
and
that'd be
it's pretty
good.
cool.
Yeah.
It's 2 miles down by the river.
Yep.
Boom,
Yep.
boom, out and back.
I didn't see any of that other stuff. I did when I signed up.
Yeah,
Well, yeah, all right, let's just sign up for the Bears. Let's
yeah,
just, so I just signed up for that. I signed up for, well, you do, Loud Thunder
yeah,
with Kurt was
yep,
there and
yep.
didn't Austin run down there too?
He did it not last year. I think the year before, him and Kurt both did. There was one year where they both did the 50K really fast. Kurt did the 50 miler. I signed up this year for the 50 miler.
Did you? Okay.
Yeah, and it's coming up.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, well,
That's a
I
good
did
one.
the half marathon
I like that course.
that year.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's really hard. I mean, those hills are no joke, especially that one where on that front side, like I'll call it towards the road, where you go, there's like that dam, and you go up that hill to the street and then
Oh,
back
yeah,
down.
yeah, 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 yeah.
There's actually a training run this Saturday. I think Kurt and I are going to go out there and do it. Just a training run to get out there
I went
on the
out there.
trail.
I went out there. I signed up for the half marathon. And yeah, I mean, I had fun. I mean, it was tough.
Yeah,
You know, um, I don't think at this point I'd be lucky if I mean, I don't think I'll ever sign up for a 50-mile race. I might. Does the Hennepin have a 50?
yeah.
I might do the Hennepin because it's all downhill. It's
It's
flat,
just, yeah.
you
You know
know.
what though? Here's my take on that. I DNF'd the 50. Um, lot of reasons why, mostly mental and personal. But what I don't like about it is it's flat. So you never get any change in
So it's
elevation. So
boring.
it's not just boring, but I don't think people realize like if you're into, even when you run around the streets here, you have some elevation gain, right? Whether it's 10
Right,
feet or
right.
15, this thing is flat as a board. So you're literally never getting any change of pace. So it kind of mentally wears on you if you're like, you're going to be out there for 12 hours or 15 hours. It, I didn't like the flatness. I love hiking the hills and then being able to calm down and go down and
Yeah.
flatten out a little bit and the variation. That's just me. But yeah, the 50 would be perfect, and there's a 50K. The 50K, so there's altered start times where the 50K I think starts at night and you end like 32 miles away or whatever at like some checkpoint of the 50 and 100-mile race. But that is a good one. That would be a good one. It's
Yeah, I mean, I would consider something like that, whatever it's going to be. I, you know, hopefully I'll get into something. You know, I don't know. I won't be in shape to run much more than maybe a 10K or something by April. Which is my birth month. I want to get something in then, but keep training. It's just that
yeah.
I got this mental thing going on where it's like every time you get into a groove, dude,
No, yeah.
your cancer shows up. Now we got to back off the training and and but I mean I can't be afraid. I mean I just can't continue to be afraid of
Yeah.
what may happen because if you do that, because then now you're
When you're
paralyzed.
paralyzed, you're stuck, right? It's like
Now,
that. Yeah.
yeah, now you're paralyzed and you
Yeah.
end up not getting anything done.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, you're 4 years down the road and
Yeah.
you
You
could
shouldn't
have
have done it. Yeah. You should have. Yeah.
you could have done something.
Right. Right.
So we're gonna work on that.
Yeah.
That's my biggest thing.
I got a couple more questions and we can wrap it up.
Yeah.
I think one, maybe I know you put out on Facebook about financial help, and I don't know if there's any other like thing you want to talk about there, meaning like is there like I feel like it sucks that there are like these charities and associations that are like with all these kinds of cancers, right? There's
Right.
the lung cancer, there's the heart association, all that. Is there any mental cell kind of charity or like organization focused on charity part of it?
I
If
don't. I we never looked into that. I'm not a we're doing okay though. I mean, at this point right now, we're doing okay. We're good. I'm ready to go back to work, right?
Good.
Which is a good thing. So I mean, financial wise, we're doing the best we can. We're good. I mean,
Okay.
where we're at, we're fine. But I never looked into, like, um, what is it, the Susan B.
Yeah,
Komen,
yeah.
that
Yeah, yeah,
organization.
yeah.
We know, I just, I don't know. They ask me, they constantly, whenever I check in for an appointment or something, are you having any trouble, with
Financial.
this?
Yeah.
And it's the male pride, I guess. No, is no, 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 no. We're fine. Um, and that wasn't even it wasn't my idea. It was my cousin's idea to do that GoFundMe, and I appreciate that. By the time I knew about it, it already started rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, and I appreciate everybody's help there. Um, and it did help out. I mean, at the time, of course, I do snow removal in the wintertime. We
Well,
we don't have
it's
any
pretty
of
much
that.
nothing. Yeah. Right.
We had a couple early on, before I got really, really sick. And I mean, it is what it is. I've always, um, I mean, I've worked since I was like 13, 14 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Every summer we would go down and work on my grandparents' farm. I learned work ethic, for the most part from my grandfather.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not going to do it right, don't do it at all. Carry your own weight, all that,
Yeah, yeah.
all those cliches.
Yep.
So I've always tried to pull my own weight, and it's nobody else's responsibility but my own to
Right.
take care of myself,
Yeah.
or my family or whatever. It didn't obviously work out the way I wanted to when I was younger because of the alcoholism and the dope. Um, but yeah, it is what it is. Uh, and I just never looked into any of those organizations. I don't. I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah. I'm
I
just
don't know why.
curious.
I
Yeah.
don't know why. I just
Yep.
it just
Yeah, I think that the asking for help is hard, right? And especially for men, like you said. But, you know, I guess if you don't ask, the answer is always no, right?
right.
And I feel like there are so many good people out there trying to help people. It's just finding them, right? Like I did a podcast with this Steve Anderson guy that Operation Barbecue Relief, and it's this other community out there, and then there's this woman that I just did, the one Liz Willis with the amputated leg. She was in a small town in Kansas, and it was like the whole town raised all this money. So like there's definitely a lot of good people out there that are willing to help if you ask for it.
If you ask for it, yeah.
Yeah.
My son, uh, my grandson Rory, he's 2 weeks old. He had to go in for brain surgery. He had fluid on the brain. He wasn't draining any fluid off. So they went and took care of that at the University of Iowa. We're talking about people that are willing to help and give. He's now 7 years old. Fast forward, and he's having all these seizures. Well, he goes back to the University of Iowa. I mean, they have so many wires hooked up to his brain, dude, that they've got his head wrapped
Mm.
with gauze, and it got this massive, massive glob of these wires coming out of the top of his head to map where his seizures are at. Long
Mm.
story short, they go in and they perform a 14-hour surgery where they shut down the entire left side of his brain because that's where the seizures are happening. He's young enough that what they're hoping for is that the right side will start to pick up on some of the things that the left side used to do,
Mm-hmm.
right? And he's doing really, really well. But they held a benefit for him out there in Princeton, Iowa, and the turnout was amazing. I mean, it was totally, there were so many people came out and helped out. So there are a lot of folks out there that are willing to help, and there were people that were willing to help me. And and that's something that you got to remember down the road. So that you can pay that forward.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I'm a firm believer in that.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of human beings out there that I don't particularly care for, but if they needed some help,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
I mean, I'd be there.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that, attitude has a lot to do with what you're going through. I've also learned like that being around John Byrne and his whole thing is stay positive, and I'm like, you know what? I agree, but that negative you can't it's not going to go away. You know what I mean? Like the negative thoughts are going to happen. It's just figuring out a way to deal with the negative thoughts, right? You could get stuck in a negative position, but you can't always think it. Just think positive. No, no, no. You're gonna, you know what I mean? Like that's just not going to work to some extent.
It's and we all say it. It's easy. It's easier said than done.
Correct.
And because we're all human. Uh, uh, I was thinking the other day, what kind of motivates me
Yeah.
is well, like I said, Rory, my grandson. I mean, look what this little kid had to go through.
Yeah.
This, I mean, what a trooper. And I keep telling him, it's funny. I had spoken to him when I was up there getting ready to have this T cell thing take place. I talking, to Rory, and he's an expert on the food up there. Okay, so he goes, Grandpa John. He goes,
Yeah.
get the tacos
Yeah.
and the cookies.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, he goes, that's all I ate, and that's all we did eat was tacos for like 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Tacos and cookies. So from a 7-year-old's point of view, if he can sit there and laugh and smile and have fun and go through something like this, and by God,
Yeah.
I better be able to go through something like that, or let's tolerate this pain.
Yeah.
It wasn't easy,
Right.
and there were times when I wanted to give up.
Yeah.
But then you would stop and think, "Wow, this guy." And there's always somebody. My room at the university was right outside my room, up 4 stories was a helipad.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So, and one day, I mean, it was nonstop. So you got to think to yourself, thank God I'm not on that helicopter. I mean, I could be in a lot worse. There's a lot of people that are in a lot worse shape
Yeah.
than you are, John. So quit feeling so,
Yep.
quit being so pissy.
Yeah.
Quit whining, which was hard.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, I still did it. I would never, it's going to come back. I just know it is. But at that time, I'll be ready for it. Right? I know it's going to come back. I'll have, I'll have everything I need, in order to, go out with grace,
Yeah.
so to speak. Yeah, I mean, I've lived a good life. I got, my kids are all healthy. My grandkids are doing good. So I mean, life's been good. It's a crying shame that we live in an environment that is so toxic
Yeah.
that it's not a matter of if somebody is going to get cancer,
It's when.
it's just a matter of when,
Yeah.
and nobody seems to want to, Iowa's terrible. Iowa's like ranked, I mean, they are one of 2 states in this nation where the cancer rates are going up and not down. That's terrible.
Yeah.
But who am I to say?
No, I mean, but facts are facts, right?
Facts are facts.
And it's the runoff. I guess what I hear is like a runoff of chemicals. And I mean, we could spend a whole entire hour talking about that and also talking about health care
Right.
in general, like coverage, insurance, Medicare, Medicaid.
Yeah, and I'm on all that.
Yeah.
Right.
What's amazing is like, I remember even when I was younger, even when I was like probably in high school or something, when Reagan was president, or it was like they always talked about Medicare or Medicaid like running out. That's 40 years ago, okay?
Right.
But then when you hear the shit that goes on of fraud, you're like, Jesus
Could you
Christ.
imagine where we would be if there was no fraud?
No shit. It's unbelievable. I just remember hearing like, someone's always trying to game the system, always doing something illegal or whatever and trying to, scam. And it's always like either old people or young people that get scammed out of money. I don't know.
Right. Well, what was it? There's no such thing as a free lunch. Evidently, there is.
Yeah. Well,
evidently, somewhere
it's
down
free
along,
for someone, not
it's free for
someone
somebody.
else paid.
Yeah.
I
mean,
Yeah.
I mean, if you live in Minnesota,
Yeah. It's
right?
crazy.
So, but I don't think I would take it that way. I'm like, well, there's always strings attached to something like that. You would think, but I don't know. We don't watch a lot of the news just because
Oh yeah, it's
of the
not. You
garbage.
can't. Yeah,
We don't.
yeah.
I'm not. I've been this whole past week, man. I've been out in the yard cleaning up my yard, and I scrubbed off cleaned my deck yesterday, and
Oh, it was like 70 degrees out.
yeah, it's gonna be 70 today, but then it's
Yeah,
gonna get cold again. Maybe
yeah,
we'll get some snow. I don't know.
yeah.
But no,
Uh,
we're in a good place right now. Um, I
well,
mean, for the most part, life is good, right?
that's good.
Yeah, life is good for me.
Good. Well, thank you for doing this. I think it was cool to learn about, your life, and like you said, you lived a good life, and it was, you're here in Iowa, and I mean, I think that, like I mentioned, your attitude of, it's reality, right? Like it's not like you're trying to convince yourself of some alternate reality, right? You're dealing with it. Every
Yeah,
time it's happened, you've dealt with it, you fought through it, you've got through it. So,
yeah. I mean, everybody said it is what it is.
yeah,
It is. If it, I, look, I got a buddy that he passed away a few years back. He tells me, he goes, nobody gets off this rock alive, dude.
yeah,
And you
hmm,
don't. I mean, you make the best of a situation. You live life. What somebody else made that statement that the object of the game isn't to go to your grave in a well preserved, good looking body,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
but
yeah, yeah,
it's better that you go sliding in head first, going, holy shit, what a
yeah,
ride.
yeah,
You know, that's how I see it.
yeah,
Let's jam pack as much stuff as we can in every 24 hours, and then call it a night and do it again.
yep.
So you went on a run this morning, then, right?
I did.
Yeah, I'm gonna get one in after we get done here. I'll go home and change and
Yeah.
get
No, it
out.
was nice out this morning. Like I said, I had shorts on, and just I was like gonna do five. I don't know. I've got this training plan to do this 50 miler, and I'm behind. I'm like a month behind, so I got to catch up, which is not a good strategy in training.
No,
But I think I've got three 20 something plus milers lined up from now until April,
right.
and then this weekend going out there and running a little bit of trails, ease into it.
So, I mentioned earlier I put all my weight back on, right? So it's kind of like in here, in
Yeah,
this area here that I got to do something. I can look at this. I can touch
yeah,
my legs are so skinny, dude,
yeah.
that I can do. I couldn't have done that before. I got to build some legs up.
Well,
I don't have any legs.
yeah,
It's hard to run when you don't have legs.
that's true.
So, well, I
Yeah,
appreciate you asking me to come over and chat for a little bit.
yeah. No, I appreciate you doing it.
Yeah,
Um,
my life's an open book. I don't,
yeah,
I mean, my dad used to say, when you're perfect, then you can criticize other people,
yeah, right.
but until you are,
Yeah,
shut up,
yeah.
right? So, I mean, I don't care. Other people's opinions of me, I don't
Don't
give a shit.
matter.
I don't
Right,
care.
right.
It's not, by you telling me that, well, I don't like you, John. Do you think that's going to change my outlook on life?
Yeah,
No,
you get in line.
I
Yeah,
don't compare. Yeah, if you're giving me a hard time, then you're leaving somebody else alone, and I'm okay with that.
right, right.
So,
All right,
all
man.
right, good.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
Yeah.